I decided to give away this book as well as a few other books because I realized that I don't really read them. I don't really read the books in my personal library. So actually, some of them are like hand-me-downs from strangers and people who like donated them to the library or like offered them on buns. Or not, is it buns? No, it's Free Cycle. It's Free Cycle is just like a website or a community where people can give away things that they don't want if they're like moving or if they're just doing some spring cleaning. So this one is Empire Express, building the first transcontinental railroad. And as you can tell, it's pretty hefty. So how many pages? I'm guessing it, well, I already saw it. It's around 770 pages. Yeah, I have not read one single page. But, so why is it sitting there collecting dust? I'm gonna donate it to the library someday. And so it could be put to hopefully better use. Here it says, beginning in 1842 with the visionary's dream to span the continent with twin bands of iron, Empire Express captures 3 dramatic decades in which the United States effectively doubled in size, fought 3 wars, and began to discover a new national identity from self-made entrepreneurs such as the Union Pacific's Thomas Durant and the Central Pacific Collis Huntington to era-defining figures such as President Lincoln, General Grant, and Sherman, Mark Twain, Walt Whitman, to the thousands of nameless laborers, especially the Irish and Chinese, whose back-breaking work made the railroad possible. I'll read that one more time because I was mispronouncing. From self-made entrepreneurs such as the Union Pacific's Thomas Durant and the Central Pacific's Collis Huntington, to era-defining figures such as President Lincoln, Generals Grant and Sherman, Mark Twain, and Walt Whitman, to the thousands of nameless laborers, especially the Irish and the Chinese, whose backbreaking work made the railroad possible. This extraordinary narrative summons an astonishing array of voices to give a new dimension, not only to this monumental endeavor, but also to the culture, political struggles, and social conflicts of an unforgettable period in American history. So this was probably published like in 1999. Yes, published. So that's why it's pretty yellowed pages. You see, they're not yellow for like people put tea on paper to make it yellow, to make it look antiquated, but that's like not for this case. And this one is SUNDOWN, Sundown, TOWNS, Sundown Towns, a hidden dimension of American racism. So the author is James W. Lowen, the author of Lies My Teacher Told Me. I read this for a social studies facing history class. So, and this forgot what the back is called. No blacks allowed, especially after dark. This was an unwritten rule in a sundown town. In his trademark revelatory style, best-selling author James W. Lowen explores one of America's best-kept secrets as he unearths the making of sundown towns and discloses the fact that many white neighborhoods and suburbs are the result of years of racism and segregation. Anna, Illinois, Darien, Connecticut, and Cedar Key, Florida, are just a few of thousands of all-white towns established between 1890 and 1968, many of which still exist today. White residents of these towns used any means possible, including the law, harassment, race riots, and even murder, to keep African Americans and other minority groups out. Powerful and unprecedented, Sundown Town tells the story of how these towns came into existence, what maintains them, and what to do about them. It also deepens our understanding of the role racism has played and continues to play in our society. I'm trying to find a page to read. There's a part on page 394 on the two-thirds of the page down. This says, there's a title, subheading, The Civil Rights Movement. Those three factors underlay the legal challenge to segregation and the ensuing civil rights movement. In turn, the civil rights movement, coupled with the legal campaigns that civil rights lawyers waged against segregated schools and other institutions, began to open sundown towns and suburbs to African Americans. Of course, the movement and the lawsuits mostly took place in the South, where independent sundown towns were few, but they did lead to this quick desegregation of most southern sundown suburbs. The civil rights movement rarely addressed northern sundown towns and suburbs directly, and when it did, such as Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1966 March for Open Housing in Cicero, Illinois, it usually failed. Still, the movement's success in the South did help to undercut the rationale for sundown towns in the North. White Northerners were jolted by the televised images of Black young people peacefully picketing and sitting in and getting beaten or jailed in the process. These images made clear that white misbehavior, not alleged Black inferiority, was the source of America's racial problem. Now that African Americans were no longer seen as a problem, white students and faculty pressured their colleges and universities to participate in the solution by recruiting and admitting Black students. Now welcoming African Americans was the thing to do in college, while just the opposite still held in sundown suburbs and neighborhoods from which so many college students had come. The civil rights movement took actions that exposed some of America's racial contradictions, which helped President Lyndon Johnson, leaders of Congress, and Earl Warren and other Supreme Court justices mobilize the power of the federal government to oppose racial segregation. However, the government did little about housing because whites were most opposed to residential desegregation. In a 1961 poll by the Connecticut Civil Rights Commission shows this in an allegedly liberal New England state. The commission survey of Connecticut's residents attitudes towards specific areas of racial integration found that 95% of whites favored or would accept racial integration in public schools, 86% in parks and recreational areas, and 76% in hotels. But only 28% favored integration in private residential neighborhoods, while another 29% would accept it, a plurality. 37% opposed such integration. Opposition to residential integration was higher than to any other form of integration except private parties. Ironically, Connecticut, like many northern states, had supposedly outlawed racial discrimination in housing decades earlier, although its open housing law was not enforced. The commission concluded dryly, opposition to integration in both public and private housing is greater than might be expected in view of the fact that such discrimination has been illegal for years. That was one section from page 394 to 395 of St. Anton's.